Welcome, foolish mortals, to day 23 of this chilling challenge. I am your host for today's topic, the Haunted Mansion. And while I could easily make a video about why the 2003 movie is an embarrassment in 999 different ways, today I want to take you into the boundless realms of the supernatural. Meaning we're going on a little tour. Not of every single room because that would be really long, but a tour nonetheless. I can't talk like this for the rest of the video, so just imagine that I have a deep and spooky voice. The Haunted Mansion is one of those rides that really freaked me out as a kid, but now that I'm older, it's one of my favorites. Which is why I'm kind of Disney bounding as the Haunted Mansion, not only today, but also in our channel art. Everything has a story at Disney. It's part of what makes the theme parks possible. And while I don't really need an excuse to go full-on nerd and do in-depth research for fun, I was interested in the Haunted Mansion story. The history of the ride is very interesting, but also quite extensive. So for this video, I'll be focusing on the lore and the characters inside and outside of the mansion. And because it's bigger and I have first-hand experience with it, let's head over to Liberty Square at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. The basic premise of the Haunted Mansion is that it's a retirement home for ghosts. And like a retirement home, the mansion is kept in immaculate shape on the outside. There are no cobwebs or crumbling bricks here, something that was very important to Walt. He didn't want an ugly old decrepit house in the middle of his otherwise beautiful theme park. His idea was that they would maintain the outside, but let the ghosts do whatever they wanted with the inside. Our tour begins here, not in the gallery, but in the queue. In 2011, an interactive queue was put in for those not in the FastPass Plus line, where guests would encounter a murder mystery of the Dread family, a Ravenscroft organ named after Thurl Ravenscroft, who was the lead singing bust in the graveyard, the leaking tomb of Sea Captain Culpeper Klein, who was later seen in the graveyard drinking tea on top of a tombstone, the poetess Prudence Pock, who died of writer's block, a relative of Phineas Pock, one of the singing busts in the graveyard. And of course, the headstones commemorate the Imagineers who worked on the Haunted Mansion, including Leota Toombs, Exitensio, Mark Davis, Raleigh Crump, and Yale Gracie. Gracie's headstone, entitled Master Gracie, led many people to believe that Gracie was the master of the Haunted Mansion, and therefore the ghost host. While this wasn't the original intention, the idea is so popular that Disney has kind of adopted it as canon. But the ghost host is really supposed to be the top-ranking butler in charge of all the other servants, rather than the master of the house. When you enter the Haunted Mansion, you're led into the foyer, where there's a painting of a handsome young man that slowly deteriorates into a decaying corpse, which is inspired by Dorian Gray. Next, we move into the portrait chamber, where you see paintings of some of the guests as they appeared in their corruptible, mortal state. There are 4 sophisticated portraits of distinguished men and women that stretch to reveal the horrific and comical nature of their partings from this world. Mark Davis is great at these kind of sight gags. While the girl with the pink parasol doesn't have any sort of official name, Disney cast members as well as guests have given her the nickname Lily and Gracie. The woman sitting on her husband's tombstone is very interesting, because her original character as written by Imagineer Exitensio was widow Abigail Patecleaver, but she's also another resident of the Haunted Mansion, which I'll explain more when we get to the attic. After the paintings stretch, the ghost host points out that there's no way to get out of the room, except for his way. The room goes pitch black and our attention is directed up towards the ceiling where you can see a body hanging from a noose, implying that the body belongs to the ghost host. After we get on the dune buggy and go past these other portraits, we go into the library where there are books being taken off shelves by invisible ghost hands, as well as marble busts that follow you as you go by. Then to the music room, which depicts a piano with moving keys and no pianist, until you see the shadow cast on the floor. And according to Imagineer Jason Sorrell, the pianist is actually the ghost host. After the endless hallway, there's a conservatory where a funeral is taking place, perhaps a little too soon, as the guy who's in the coffin is trying desperately to escape. There are dried up floral arrangements surrounding the coffin, and there's a raven keeping watch over it. In early drafts for the story of the mansion, Exitensio actually wrote the raven to be the guide for the tour. And while that didn't really work, he still shows up a few times in the ride. The corridor of doors involves restless spirits trying to get through their doors and into the hallway where the guests are. There's one door in particular that grows and shrinks, and it's meant to look like it's breathing. This was based off the 1963 movie The Haunting. Then there's one of my favorite visuals, the glowing eyes that turn into the purple and black wallpaper. This and the breathing door are just 2 examples of the many details in the ride that are meant to make you feel like the house is alive and it's watching you. Most people think that Mark Davis came up with the wallpaper, but it was actually the combined efforts of Raleigh Crump and Claude Coates. Seance circle! Woo woo! Madame Leota's room! The face of Madame Leota is that of Disney Imagineer Leota Toombs, and the voice is provided by Eleanor Audley, the voice of Maleficent and Lady Tremaine. Leota has a spell book on her table open to pages 1312 and 1313. On 1312, we have a figure of death that looks a lot like the tallest hitchhiking ghost, and the spell on page 1313 is the same spell that causes Blackbeard's ghost to rise from the dead in the 1967 Disney movie Blackbeard's Ghost. The Grand Hall is definitely one of my favorite rooms, and there's certainly enough sight gags to make Mark Davis happy. This scene shows several ghosts sitting at a table, with one ghost attempting to blow out the candles on her death day cake. The ghost at the other end of the table is Great Caesar's ghost, another character from Ken Anderson's early ideas. This whole scene was based on an earlier idea for the mansion involving a wedding reception for a bride who loses her head before the wedding. We've got an old woman ghost sitting in a rocking chair who actually makes her first appearance in the Carousel of Progress. There's a ghost who's probably had a little too much to drink and he's swinging on the chandelier. His name is Pickwick, and he's the only other character in the entire ride besides Madame Leota that's referred to by any specific name in Imagineer documentation. My favorite gag is the portraits of two dueling men who have their backs to one another holding pistols who are about to turn around and shoot each other. And then the ghosts spring from the painting and do exactly that. Mark Davis, ladies and gentlemen. Does the guy on the left look familiar? He should. It's the same audio animatronic pirate from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride that's auctioning off the redhead. This is the room I've been the most excited to talk about. The attic! The home of the Black Widow Bride, which is what the Imagineers started calling her, though her real name is Constance Hatchaway. They have art of her right here. As you move through the room, you see evidence of her 5 marriages. Celebratory banners, portraits of her and her new husband, gifts that grow more and more extravagant with each marriage, as she climbs the social ladder and marries a wealthier man each time. She's also from, wait for it, Money County, California. I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she totally is. After a few seconds, the groom's head in the portrait disappears. And with each husband, a strand of pearls is added to her ensemble. Constance Hatchaway first appeared in the Disney World ride in 2007. Her story was written by Imagineer Chris Gooseman, who deliberately made her 5th and final husband, George, look like George Pate Cleaver from the stretching portrait room to connect Constance to the woman sitting on top of her husband's gravestone. This is why Constance is holding a rose in her portrait with George. All of Constance's husbands are modeled after Imagineers. Her first marriage is to Ambrose Harper in 1869, the son of successful farmers. Poor innocent Ambrose. Then there's Frank Banks in 1872, a well-off banker. In 1874, the Marquis de Doom, who appears in his wedding portrait in full dress uniform. Reginald Kane in 1875, a railroad baron who is obviously fabulously wealthy given his clothes and his jewelry. And finally, George Hightower in 1877. George was an owner of the mansion and also probably related to Harrison Hightower III, who built the Hightower Hotel, the setting for Tower of Terror in Tokyo Disneyland. And then the Doom buggies tip backwards as we fall from the attic window, and that raven from the conservatory is there watching you fall to the ground. And this begs the question, do we die? Is that why we end up in the graveyard to join the celebrating ghosts? Do you become the 1000th happy haunt? When you land, there's this guy at the entrance of the graveyard who's scared out of his wits, and as a dog, he needs to feed more. Their footprints and paw prints are actually in the concrete sidewalk as you exit the ride. The graveyard. There's a lot going on here. There's the Phantom 5, there's a king and queen on a teeter-totter, there's an executioner with his knight, there's a group of 19th century ghosts just having a tea party. And then there's the classic singing busts, and each one of them has a name. From left to right, we have Rollo Rumpkin, named after Imagineer Raleigh Crump. Uncle Theodore, whose bust is broken, and no, it is not Walt Disney, it looks nothing like Walt Disney. The dad from Frozen looks more like Walt Disney. He's also voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft, who sang You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Cousin Algernon, who is wearing a bowler hat. Ned Nubb, who's the only one not wearing a necktie. Come on, Ned. You had one job. And Phineas P. Pock, the guy who's related to the poetess in the cube. Their interesting fact about one another is that they're related to each other. Just before we leave, there's an operatic duet between a man and a woman. The woman is most likely named Harriet, given the tombstone outside. And knowing Mark Davis, I have no doubt that it's a reference to the phrase, "It's not over till the fat lady sings." We see the raven one last time, and then there's the warning to avoid hitchhiking ghosts, who we then see. The only official names they have are the Traveler, the Skeleton, and the Prisoner. but fans and cast members refer to them as Phineas, Ezra, and Gus. And yet again, it's so popular that Disney just kind of accepted it. In 2011, the mirrors that used to project the ghost sitting in the Doom buggy with you were updated. The ghosts now play tricks on you based on their personality. Phineas the Traveler has a John Candy and Chris Farley sense of humor. Ezra the Skeleton is a prankster. Think a fusion between Michael Keaton, John Cleese, and Jim Carrey. Gus the Prisoner is more laid back. It was based off of Christopher Lloyd's Reverend Jim in Taxi. And then the princess's least favorite part of the ride, because it means it's over, a tiny bride appears on the ledge, encouraging you to hurry back and to next time bring your death certificate so you can stay. Her official name is the Ghostess, a portmanteau of ghost and hostess, but can you guess what happened? Guests and cast members call her something else. Little Leota, because her face is that of Imagineer Leota Toombs, but instead of Eleanor Audley providing the voice, it's actually Toombs herself. There's also the store Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that means remember you must die. It opened in 2013 and it sells Haunted Mansion merchandise. The story behind this is after leaving Salem, Massachusetts for fear of being tried as a witch, the young Madame Leota sets up shop in the Hudson River Valley, where she told fortunes and did tarot card readings and a little bit of potion making and some palmistry. And Memento Mori is where she did that. There's even a portrait of young Leota inside. Wow, I think I covered everything. So about 98% of the information from this video came from this book that I got at Memento Mori, written by Imagineer Jason Sorrell, who not only worked on the queue, but also on the building of Memento Mori. It was $23 in the park, and I think it's on Amazon, but oh man, it's worth it. It's just fascinating, while also being written in an easily digestible way, and also informative and funny. I highly recommend it. Thank you all for joining me on this little tour. If you like this video, I'm sure a hitchhiking ghost of your choice will happily follow you home, should you so wish. Leave a comment below with your favorite part about the Haunted Mansion, whether it's a character, a funny epitaph, or whatever. And subscribe to follow the rest of this chilling challenge. And if you don't subscribe, Constance Hatchaway is gonna be very disappointed in you. Isn't that right, Constance?
You may now kiss the bride.
She means yes. The princess will see you for the next few days. Hurry back. I have a feeling that Mark Davis was one of those guys that just made puns all the time. You have termites in your smile. Oh my god, that was awful.